You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Guitar Talk. I'm Dave.
I'm John.
And this is episode 10.
What's cracking?
Not too much. I had a pretty good rehearsal yesterday with this funk band that we're doing, and I'm doing the bass on it. And I literally was like going into panic mode the other day because I was like, I don't know if I know these tunes. And, the only way to really do it is just to bang out each set. And I realize I'm probably like out of a 21 to 23 song set list, I am about one song out from getting the whole thing. There's just one tune I'm struggling with.
Would you say that you're modeling your style bass playing after Muzz Skillings or Doug Wimbish?
Yeah. Or neither.
Or neither.
Oh, no. This is basically old soul stuff.
Okay.
Evelyn Champagne King. We're doing like modern stuff. Well, not modern, but like Jamiroquai and the brand new heavies also. So it's a mix of basically just stuff I like.
Blind Lemon Jefferson.
Exactly. Blind Lemon Pie.
Right. Squiggy and the Pearls. What's the band layout? You have horns?
No horns. It's basically I'm playing bass. We have a singer, guitar player that's also doubling up on like keyboard, playing all the strings.
Okay.
And a keyboard player, a regular guy that just dedicated keyboard, and drummer. And then we also have a guy that's going to sit in on a couple of tunes at the first gig to play sax on a bunch of songs.
Oh, there's a horn.
Yeah.
Dig it.
Yeah.
How's the drummer?
Oh, he's great.
You have to say that.
No, he's a good drummer. He's like one of the few guys out here that I think can lock a groove. All right, so what's going on your end? What's been happening?
Oh, man. I got an excellent phone call on Saturday that was thrilling. It was a Mr. David Friedman.
Oh, nice.
And telling me that my amplifier was done.
Wow.
And if you look behind
me, hey,
there's a Buddha sitting on top of a Mesa Boogie there.
Wow, look.
Isn't she pretty?
Oh, isn't she buttery?
Oh, dude. So I picked that up on Saturday. There were, according to him, there were a handful of issues, but nothing that couldn't be nailed down. So it was nailed down. Now it sounds back to normal. It's clean. It's killer.
Did he tell you what was the problem that no one else seemed to have been getting the bottom of?
He said that he had to change like 4 different parts inside of it.
Wow.
He said that there was a filter cap problem. Oh, God, what was the other big one that he said? Something about a filament. I don't know. It's over my head.
Congratulations. The money you spent on repairing this, you could have bought a Dirty Shirley.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, it wasn't bad. Ended up throwing him like $200.
Oh, wow.
But, which is, I don't know. If I lived in Michigan still, as a young man, I would be, it would have probably been $60. But I'm paying LA prices.
Right.
So,
well, and, you are going to the guy. I mean, not everyone goes to Friedman to get his amp worked on.
True.
True.
That's all I do. I only go to the top-notch guys.
Right.
Which is why I spend so much time at Norm's.
Norman's Rare Guitars.
I'm talking about Norm's.
You meant Norm's Restaurant. Right, that's your budget for food. By the way, how dare you insult Norm's? $1.99 4x4 breakfast was the greatest thing ever.
I don't think I ever saw that.
Oh yeah, well that was like when I first moved to LA.
Okay.
Then they finally went up to like $3.99 or $4.99.
Still very reasonable.
Oh yes. And in fact, what better for like the holidays when you go get the turkey dinner, the pumpkin pie, the bowl of gumbo soup.
Oh man,
getting you hungry.
Norm's can satisfy all your cravings. Bacon, eggs, steak, potatoes, you name it, Norm serves it. 24 hours a day. Norms, where life happens 24/7.
I remember Ash. You remember Ash?
Of course, he was great. I love Ash.
Ash. Shout out to Ash. He
Yeah.
was the waiter at Norm's on. Is he on the location on Lincoln?
Yeah, Lincoln in Colorado, I believe, is the corner.
I remember sitting there with you one day, and you're looking at him. You guys have something like an avo gobble, something with avocado and turkey, and he's looking at you like you're crazy.
Right, because he's like, yeah, we have the Avo Gobble.
That's our name.
Right. But it's just hilarious, the fact that he would think for a second that I wasn't sitting there calling it exactly what their menu calls it.
Right, exactly.
Like, you guys have like an Avo Gobble? Yeah, we have an Avo Gobble. I'm like, yeah. You think?
That's funny. Anyway, I'm off topic this morning. There's a good reason to be off topic this morning because I had bacon this morning.
Yes. Nice.
And the very first thought as I'm eating bacon was, everybody's gonna think like, dude's an animal. What a pig. He's eating, because I can put down 4 pieces of bacon without even thinking about it.
Sure.
And people, especially women, that's not good for you or whatever. So my instead of bacon, maybe from now on I should just start buying pork belly and calling it bacon.
Right.
So it'd just be like, I could have a piece that's a 1/2 inch thick, and I'll eat the whole thing. It'll be the equivalent of like 6 pieces of bacon, and then I'll just be like, I just had one.
Well, when I tell somebody that I'm home and I'm having bacon, I mean I'm having the package.
Yeah, precisely.
There is no opening it, cooking 4 slices, and then putting it back in the fridge. The whole thing is getting cooked.
Well, what's a package of bacon? It's 12 ounces, right? That's what the one I had this morning was. And you figure that, 6 of those ounces gets dripped off into the pan.
Sure.
That's not much food. Which is why that's why you need to throw in another 4 eggs on top of that.
Exactly. So, hey, have you watched, I posted a video the other day. I saw that Prince thing that was from 2004. I don't know if you've seen that before, with Tom Petty and Scott Thurston's playing bass, and Mark Mann's playing guitar, and Jeff Lynne. And the way I'm rattling off names, I sound like, remember The Wedding Singer? Oh, you guys are going to make it. Like
right.
Woody and Mia, Donald and Ivana.
We're
Bert
brother
and Lonnie.
Right, we're brother and sister. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
So
I did watch the video that you posted.
What'd you think of of Prince's performance in that?
Well,
Not
I watched your video. I haven't seen the Prince performance video in a few years. I tend to agree with you. I never really got Prince. Like for all intents and purposes, he just never did it for me. He's got a handful of songs that I really like.
Yeah.
I don't think that he ever transcended the 80s. There's some pieces of music that are so timeless that it doesn't matter if it's 70s or 80s or 90s or whatever. It just works. And to me, everything that he did sounded very 80s.
Well, I have to say, as an artist, I was coming from a place of, I really like Prince. I liked a lot of the funk stuff he did. I loved some of the later albums. Even in the 90s, I liked a lot of what he did. As a guitar player was my issue. Here he comes in and he's sitting in with who I believe are legendary also in their field. And you had a guy like Mark Mann who's just nailing the solo and really taking the song to heart, playing it, playing a really nice version of it. And Prince came in and he starts laying down just like pentatonic stuff. And not that pentatonic's bad, but it's like, it would have been nicer if people would just like, oh, that was fun.
Right.
But people are like, oh, Prince really showed everybody what was up. Yeah, he showed everybody he's not getting the phone call back. You know what I mean? Because he was like,
yeah, when it comes to entertainment, we are, unfortunately, we're the nerds, the normal people that don't play instruments. All they want to do is drink and dance, and Prince gives them a show.
Right, that's what it was. It was a lot of showboating. But I wish people would just sit there and say what a performer he is instead of, oh, what he's such a great guitar player, he's a virtuoso. He's a what? You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, and that just what kind of what irked me in the video is that there are unsung guys like Mark Mann, who's played on a lot of stuff, who's a great session guy. And, you know, I'll tell you what really spawned it off because I didn't go into it in the video. There was an article, and I can't remember if it was the Times. It might have been the New York Times, but somebody was saying it was an interview with Mark Mann about his career, and somebody brought up the 2004 thing, and he mentioned working with Jeff Lynne and Tom Petty before. And the person writing the article was saying the elephant in the room is he didn't say how amazing Prince was that night. Like,
why is that an elephant in the room?
I don't know, but that's what set me off, because I'm like, wait a second. This guy who actually killed it on the guitar and the thing, you think he's looking at Prince as a guitar player and saying, oh, everybody thinks he's great, I will too. Although I know, but you know what I mean? It's like, no, of course he's not going to bring it up. I'm sure he was kind of like annoyed at the situation that here comes a guy in to wank at the end, and it wasn't even that great, and yet he gets like a ton of like everybody was talking about that, and not the fact that that Jeff Lynne was crushing it.
Is right. Was the crux of that comment? I mean, you can read through bullshit. Was the crux of that comment of, the elephant in the room is that Prince didn't get any credit? Was that a comment related to nobody gave credit to the black guy?
No, and then when I brought up race in my Prince video too, I don't think so. I think what he was saying was, how can you not comment on what an unbelievable job Prince did that night? He crushed everybody, and it was like I almost want to refer to what I call the Simon Cowell syndrome. Ever since American Idol came out, every asshole thinks they know anything about singing. Oh, like when I came back to Massachusetts, everybody's like, oh, Dave, you got to hear my niece sing. She's unbelievable. She's so talented. Oh, she's talented. And then I go and I'm like, all right, well, does she have a YouTube? Yeah, let me send it. And then they send it to me and I'm like, yeah, she's not. She's not. What do you mean she's not good? She's unbelievable. They want her for this and they want her for that. Great. I wish her all the success in the world. And they don't have an understanding. And it's like, you are not the judge of, you know what I mean? It's like the girl was like all out of pitch and everything else. And it just sounded like a local girl that sings, that's, small town, that won't really ever do anything unless she just doesn't have it. People either have it or they don't when it comes to that kind of stuff. I've seen little kids come up and sing and they can belt everything in tune, and it's like, wow, there's something. And then there's some people that sing and it's like, yeah, those people have nothing. There was a girl that worked at a bar, and she was like, oh, you got to come see this band. They're really good. I'm like, yeah, I've seen them. I don't care for them. Oh my God, they're the most talented band around here. I'm like, well, I mean, they play at your place and I'm glad you like them. And she's getting all mad because I don't like them. And I'm like, you know what I mean? And she's like, I know talent. And I'm like, okay, good for you. Good for you. I mean, it's like, I just noticed it, like the people, it's like, all of a sudden they get like, they want you to understand their opinion of it. Or they'll say like, oh yeah, and the singer's not pitchy at all. Yeah. What does that mean actually? And they're like, well, huh? They have no idea what the hell they're even talking about anyways. It's like, just leave me alone.
You want to hear a pitchy singer? I'll call you up and sing you a tune.
Do you remember the woman that used to, I can't remember the girl's name, but the woman that used to come in with her daughter, and she was always pushing her daughter like, my daughter's gonna make it. She's
I don't know. It was, I feel like that wasn't that a lot of people coming in with their spectacular children?
Oh yeah. Well, that's because they would walk in and Rick Waite would be like, future rock star.
Let me hug your mom. Oh man.
Like that, though.
Oh man. So I had a topic of conversation I wanted to bring up to you because I realized this weekend that I had never once listened to the record Time's Up from Living Colour.
The second album,
The
yes.
second album. Never heard it. Never heard a single song off of it.
Time's Up, the one with History and Stereotype.
That's right.
Oh, it's a great album.
It's super good.
Yeah.
I've never heard it. So folks,
I like that better than the first one.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far. The first
What's the
one's
song?
loaded with great tunes.
Bang, bang, tick, bang. Oh, the Solace of You is on that album. But
Right.
what was the song that was all the dominant chords? Bang.
I don't know the track listing well enough yet, but I know that the first song I think is Time's Up.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called. And then there's History, and then there's Pride. And Pride is super good. The whole record that I heard was super good.
I thought Type was early on too. Isn't Type on that? Stereotyped. We are
maybe.
the leaders of concrete and
Yeah.
steel.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's on that album.
I haven't listened to that record in 100 years.
So, dude, Living Colour, I always thought Vivid was outstanding. Just an absolute killer record from cover to cover. I like every song on the record. I'll even listen to Glamour Boys if nobody's around. I don't give a shit. I'm like Glamour Boys.
That was a decent song.
It's ridiculous, but it's great.
Yeah.
Where you get what's the tune? They ended up doing Funny Vibe.
Yeah, that's the first.
If you go back to the deluxe version of it, there's Funny Vibe featuring Public Enemy because they did a did a mashup with Public Enemy on that one too.
Little Flavor Flav and Chuck D.
Yeah, so there's that which is rad. But I've spent the last like 25 or 30 years or however long like listening to Vivid every once in a while, and I've never heard Time's Up. And I thought, what the hell is wrong with me? How did I manage to like get by on this one record and not dig any deeper? And I'm curious to ask you, have you ever had a band like that where you've like kind of gone head over heels with a record and then kind of not dug any deeper and maybe found out way later and you were like, I'm a dummy?
Oh yeah. Electric Light Orchestra, which last year.
Talk about Jeff Lynne. He was in that band, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the band, basically.
Yeah, that's what
he
I
wrote
thought.
Every song. So I was always a huge fan of the Discovery album. We had it as a kid. It came out in like 1979. Every song I loved. And then there was some of the radio songs. I was always like, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. And then I listened to a New World record. I was listening to it in my car, and I just kept it in my car. And after about 2 weeks, I'm like, this album's so fantastic. I mean, it might be one of the best albums of the 70s, and I can't believe that I overlooked it. So then there's this guy on YouTube who's a British guy, probably a year or two older than me, maybe a little older, but he always is talking about albums. And he just seems like a genuinely nice guy. John Hedden or whatever, I can't remember his name. I'll post it, but in fact I'll put it just on the bottom here. The guy's great, and he was once talking about his favorite albums, and he did a thing about Out of the Blue by ELO, and he's saying, and he makes a passing comment. He goes, I selected this album because of blah 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 blah. He goes, even though a New World record is probably the greatest. And I'm like, all right, so I think New World Record is fantastic. I'm going to hear this guy out. And so then I went and got the album, put it in my car, and I think that album's unbelievable too. Those 3 albums in a row, a New World Record, Out of the Blue, and Discovery by ELO is like a 1, 2, 3 punch that I think is just, we talk about bands hitting lightning in a bottle. Like they were out of control good. Huh. Some people tend to think it extends into Xanadu and the album after. I do not. I think it stops right at Discovery. But I will say this about your Time's Up. When that album came out, I effing was in love with that record. My only issue was I never thought Corey Glover was that good of a singer. He sounds to me a lot like Stevie Ray Vaughan, and that
Oh.
always bothered me. The album after Time's Up is called Stain,
Right.
and I forget what the first song is called, but that was like the first album I heard that was with using a dual rectifier. And I heard that,
Okay.
and I went out and got a dual rectifier right when that album came out because I was like, boom, that thing sounds. That album has a much heavier sound. And Living Color, I always thought, like even Time's Up, I always thought it was lacking something. There was something about it that I didn't like, even though I liked it. And so one day I'm at Tower Records and it's like midnight on a Monday, which was new album release night.
Yep.
And I run up to the front and I'm like, what album am I listening to right now? Because it sounds like Living Color all of a sudden got really good. And he was like, oh, this is 24/7 Spy's new album, Strength in Numbers. And that was it for me. I was like,
That's your boy Jimmy Hazel.
Yes. And I was like, that's what I wish Living Color was when I heard them the first time. It's like if I could put into words what it was missing, Strength in Numbers. And but yeah, so in answer to your question, Electric Light Orchestra would be probably the biggest band that I overlooked for years that I cannot believe how amazing I think they are.
Yeah. How about an album that, let's go the other way with it. How about an album that started off as lightning in a bottle? Something that everybody heard and it goes bananas. There's no follow-up because the first record was just too big. And you go back to it now and you say, this album's really dated.
Boston.
It's a good one.
The first album by Boston. I can't even listen to it. I've hated it for years.
Really?
And I'm sure and just as a disclaimer, I'm sure at some point I'm going to go back and be like, what was I mean, I just got sick of it.
Yeah.
It's the only.
What is the name of the tune on that record that starts out with that really odd keyboard intro? Is it
Foreplay Long Time?
Yeah, Long Time. I love Long Time though.
Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, the song. I mean, like I said, it's one of those things where it's a love-hate with it. It's just, I don't want to hear "Hitch a Ride" again. I don't want to hear. I mean, there's so Smokin', Rock and Roll Band, Peace of Mind. I mean, it's all great songs. Who's hitting who? But coming out of the gate, it was so huge. Going back, yeah. I mean, even though I dislike it and I've had enough of it, when you listen to it, you're like, there's no way this thing couldn't be huge. So in your question, I think you're saying when you go back and you realize that it was overrated.
I don't know if I would even say overrated, but something that if it came out now, it wouldn't strike a chord.
And a band's first album?
Well, I think that there are albums that you listen to and you say that there is a timeless appeal to it. There's a timeless appeal to the rhythm section, to the melodies, to whatever. Production aside, because production is going to lead to, you can tell if something was produced in the 60s or if you can tell something was produced modern day. But in terms of its overall melodic structure and the rhythms and everything like that, if it would hold up. I wonder if that did come out today, if that would hold up, production aside. Because I feel like there are good melodies to that music. It's catchy as hell. Sorry.
Oh no, but I know it's okay. But I think those songs are not that they're not strong. I just got sick of Brad Delp's voice a little bit, and but if there was an album that was like you go back to it today and you'd be like, this isn't that good, as a first album from a band. I don't know.
I have one, which is why I brought it up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill. I was listening to that because I'm trying to find rock songs that feature a female front person for my daughter.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, that one was huge.
Yeah.
Dude, you listen to that. It sounds so unbelievably mid-90s.
Yeah.
And you know, the one thing that kicks me every time I listen to it, I think like, if I never hear this drum beat again, I'm a happy guy, because it was in every single pop rock hit of all of the mid to late 90s. And that's that drum beat where you're going boom, tap, tap, boom, 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 tap, tap, tap. It's that pickup on the snare drum.
Right, the Ghost, yeah.
Dude, it was on everything.
The extra hit, yeah.
Absolutely everything. You even listen to the acoustic guitar strumming patterns. It's all it's the same thing on everything.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what
and if
was
you think
on
about it,
that
that wasn't terribly. I don't think that same rhythm pattern was terribly used in the 70s, the 80s, even nowadays. I don't hear it as much.
Well, you know what's funny is, so the reason that's hard to come up with is, you know, when we were growing up, bands were developed.
Right.
And by that, labels kind of were run by people who gave, I think, the artist more space to grow, and was to like, you know, listen, you didn't sell a lot of records. This is what we could try this time. But it was a much more of a developing of the band. Like you could take a band like Journey. You know, they ended up bringing in Steve Perry and kind of married that whole thing together. You have bands, you know, that over time grew and developed into different things. But you have like, what happened was, now it's like there's so much money being spent on, and not just now. I mean, goes back some years when it started, where they spent money, and it's like Alanis Morissette when she came out. If your first album isn't huge, then you're done. You know, and they said her second album was a huge failure. Her second album was like double platinum.
Right.
You know, which is unbelievable.
Right.
But a huge failure because her first album sold 35 million worldwide, or 50 million worldwide.
Yeah, I think in the United States, I read that it was 33 million copies.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. And like I said, and then they look at her second album, and they're like, oh, she's a failure. I mean, personally, I think that, you know, she didn't care. And, you know, this next big hit was Thank You. I mean, how many songs do you have? Thank you. Thank you. You know, she's just like, she's happy now. Forget about, you know, going down on some dude in a theater. And now it's all about thank you.
And my next question was going to be, when's the last time you went out? No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
1997, Phoenix. No, I'm kidding.
Hilarious. Also, did you happen to see I did the Marshall video?
The Marshall video was great.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah. If you guys haven't checked out Dave's chronology on Marshall, you should. It was a very good video. Well done.
On Sean Marshall?
It was right, exactly. Which nobody knows who that is.
Right. They don't have to.
I don't even think he knows who it is.
Exactly. But yeah, you know what? I didn't go into like some of the crazy stuff, like the 6100, the 30th anniversary JCM 900. No one cares about it. Or the 25, which is, what's it? The 2525 or the 2550? I forget the number of the Jubilee.
You can always get nerdier, but
yeah, I didn't want to get too crazy, but you know, it's just funny because, like, you know, somebody posted on like one of the forum, like trying to sell and he was like, it's a vintage 1960s reissue. I'm like, no, 1960s, the model number. He's like, yeah, but it's from 2000. I'm like, it's okay. But yeah. So, I mean, and people just have a hard time understanding all that. I didn't get into the super bass or the PAs. I just didn't think. You know what's funny is I saw that Satriani. I remember, you remember he went to Marshall.
Yeah.
When
he
left,
had like this, he had a signature JVM. I don't know if that still exists or not.
No, I think it doesn't. But the amp that he left when he left Peavey was the JSX. Right. Which I thought was an awesome high gain amp. In fact, I think that I'll put that Peavey JSX against almost any high gain amp. And when he left, they ended up calling it the Triple X2.
Okay.
With the Roman numeral 2, and I think that's even done. But if you can pick either a JSX up cheaply or a Triple X2 by Peavey, those are phenomenal high gain amps that also do a great, old vintage crunch or cleans. They're nice amplifiers. And then I thought it was weird that he left them to go to Marshall, because the JVM I always thought was crap. Remember the JVM?
I'm sure it was financial.
Yeah, the JVM 410. Remember they had the 410, which was it basically stood for 4-channel, and the 10 was for the 100-watt. And then they had the 2-channel 50-watt, which was the 205.
Right.
So his version, I guess they took out the reverbs and they put noise gates in. Okay.
Interesting.
Right? It's like, because I guess Kerry King had noise gates in his 2203 KK.
Didn't Ingves have noise gates as well?
I don't even know if they made an Ingve Marshall.
Yeah, it was a 1955 or 1959 YJM.
Right. Okay.
And and it had stuff on the back panel. I think there was a boost and a noise gate built in.
Unreal. Yeah, I mean, I just didn't see. And then, but I just don't think that amp was all that good compared to that JSX, which I was shocked when I heard it. I was like, this is a fantastic sounding amp.
Yeah, I've never played either. So I can't really speak to it. You mentioned, I want to get back to it if I can derail this for a moment. 24/7 Spies.
Yes.
You said it was the first time that you heard the dual rectifier on a record, and it sounded amazing, right?
Not 24/7 Spies. That was on the Living Color album Stained, which was their third album.
Right. Okay. But 24/7 Spies didn't use dual recs?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, for everybody out there like me who doesn't know, what's the name of that record that I should get? 24/7 Spies.
Strength in Numbers.
Okay. So folks, get Strength in Numbers by 24/7 Spies. Comment, let us know. I'm curious what you think of it. I am going to listen to it a few times this week. I'll listen to it today because I'm driving down to San Diego in a little bit.
Oh, nice.
And so I'll have a chance to get through the whole thing a few times, I think.
You taking the toll road?
On a day like today, probably not. It's gonna be clear. It's gonna be really clear. It's raining outside, so nobody's driving. Plus my drive time is all gonna be like after prime hours.
Oh, gotcha.
And yeah. I'm gonna get out of here at about 10:30 a.m.
I love that toll road.
The was it the 71 or whatever?
73.
73. Yeah. I have the little beeper box thing up in my car that
The transponder.
Right. So I could do that, but yeah. Either way, we're getting way off. So 24/7 Spies, Strength in Numbers. Listen to it, comment on it, tell us what you think. I'm really curious.
But now
I want to bring up the other album because this is what you were talking about. So 1993, I think is when Stained came out, right? Or is it 92?
I thought it was earlier, but it could be 92. I thought it might have even been. Let's look it up. Hold on. Let me just take a look real quick.
It's the whip around, everybody. Who thinks it's 92? Who thinks it's 93? I'm going with 93. That's my guess.
93.
Boom. What do I
March
win?
March 2nd, 93.
Ooh, March 2nd. It's a strong date. I don't know why. It's only a strong date because that record came out. That was a darker record for them.
Yes. It was very heavy.
Who was the producer on that? They brought in a different producer.
Saint Germain or Rod Saint Germain or something. I don't remember.
Sounds like a porn star.
Right. Exactly.
No, I was gonna parallel that dual rectifier with King's X. Which, you know, I'm a huge King's X fan.
Yes.
Love the hell out of King's X. Doug Pinnick. Dude,
Didn't
Doug,
you and I
Doug
see them
Pinnick
at the
can do
NAMM
no
show?
wrong. Probably.
Was it you and I that were together at the NAMM show when they played the private room?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we saw them at like some private room at NAMM.
Yeah. I saw them recently at St. Rock in Hermosa Beach, which is like a relatively small venue.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. They're still super good. And anyways, 1994, they
St.
released...
Rock. St. Rock is on, what is that? Is that PCH? Yeah, okay, I know exactly where it is. I saw a Van Halen cover band down there years ago.
Exactly. And I saw King's X at a place where a cover band's going to play. So
yeah,
you can imagine it was absolutely fantastic. So Dogman, I think, was 94. And it's the first record where Ty Tabor was using a dual rectifier. Yeah. And you hear one of the biggest swings in guitar tone that I think I've ever heard. Like the previous records to that, he was using the solid state stuff, like the Gibson Lab amps.
Right.
And they had a very particular sound that Ty was kind of known for. Then all of a sudden Dogman comes out and it's the dual rectifier and it sounds enormous. I absolutely love that record.
I'll have to give that a listen this week then. I'll listen to that one and get back to you on it. Dogman is the name of the album?
Dogman, yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. I can't help it. I absolutely like that band. You know, Doug Pinnick later on did a project called KXM, which normally I would tend to shy away from because George Lynch is in it.
Right.
And no offense to Tony Fuentes, but he's not my favorite guitar player.
No.
But it's Doug Pinnick, George Lynch, and Ray Luzier.
Yes.
And they released 3 records. The first one is really good. Beyond that, I didn't really care that much for the second record, but that first one, there's some songs on there like check out a song called Gunfight from KXM. Pretty good. I mean, Ray's killing it. I know you're a fan of Ray.
Oh, Ray's awesome. He's one of the best drummers. I mean, it's great. And he's a super nice guy, great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so dual rectifier. Thing sounds massive, dude.
Well, and the amp you have behind you is the same amp. I mean, the single rec is the exact same amp. It's basically, just half the wattage, and they took out I can't remember. Does it have the spongy thing in the back of that thing? I don't remember.
No. Of
the single rec, no. But it's
no. But this is an earlier one. This is the one that's just 2 channels with 2 modes per channel. So this was the first release of the single rec. Right. They made a second version of it that they call Recto Verb 50 Mark II, and that one had a few additional bells and whistles.
Yeah, I thought it was mainly just you could cut the wattage down on the channels.
You're talking about like a voltage switch variac kind of thing where you go from like.
No, didn't they have on the Mark II like they added a third channel.
Yeah, they added the raw channel.
Right.
And they also added the ability to switch between 6L6s and EL34s in the bias section.
Oh, okay.
And whether or not there was a bold and a spongy, which is their terminology on many of their other amps. I don't know if it had that or not, but most of the early stuff didn't have all of those bells and whistles. I remember you told me that your first dual rack you bought back in the early 90s. So I imagine, I imagine that particular one didn't have all of the crazy switching.
It did.
It did.
It had the spongy, bold. It had, you had the rectifier switch in the back to switch from silicone to diode to whatever to the tube. It had, and it was just 2 channel. I mean, it was obviously more stripped down, but for some reason, I think you could switch. You could go 6L6 or EL34s, and there was a switch for biasing for that.
Yeah, that may have been there.
Yeah.
Now, but it was the original one. When I look at the early models, you could kind of tell like the earliest models because the logo on the front, the Mesa Boogie logo, is much smaller. It's in the middle of the head, and it's much smaller than like even the one that's behind you right now. It's
right.
about half the size of that. And the earliest versions of that dual rectifier had 2 channels, but there were no voicing switches on the channels. If you look at the channel paneling, it's like you get all the knobs, but there's no additional switches for like clean and pushed or raw, vintage, and modern.
And I think that's the first year or the first 6 months in. They changed them. Like there's like the serial number goes through so many different changes. I'm not an expert on them, but I do know that there was like all these different versions before they came out with the main production version.
Right.
And if you remember when the first ones came out, they had them in chrome like this, or you could get them in solid black, where the diamond plate was all blacked over and the face was black, and then the light was red. And on the chrome one, the light was blue. That I remember about them. But yeah, I mean, people would always say to me, oh, the 2-channel was the better one. And I disagree. I think this one was my favorite sounding. I love the amps. I think they're great sounding amps.
Well, they claim that they did change the voicing when they went to the 3-channel. I know that you say you. I thought it was you that said you didn't really hear a difference. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's a little bit more higher gain, the 3-channel than the second channel, than the 2-channel. What I say is people always say the first one sounded better. And that I disagree with, because I think you can make it sound kind of like the other one if you just roll the gain back a little bit more.
Okay.
But they're very similar sounding. Yeah, the other one wasn't as high a gain. Still pretty good. So this one had a little bit more higher gain. You know, there's so many amps out there that are great, and we could talk about like when you know our favorite records, and there's so many ways to skin a cat. You can listen to so the intro to the channel that I use is I'm playing in the song The Big Angry. I'm using a 74 JMP No Master Volume, a 1959, just decked in a studio. And it sounded okay. I think the rectifier sounds better, but when you record it, you can then do all kinds of things to, you know what I mean? It's like, you can make it sound how you want, really. You know,
True.
EQ it into the board and EQ the thing to sound a certain way. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great amps that cost a lot of money. Like you could go out and buy a Cherry Bomb by Steve Henning, the Henning amplification, and Steve Henning makes great amps, but it's $3,500. Or you could go on Craigslist and find an old Peavey JSX, and it's phenomenal. Or a Triple X2. Or if you like the 5150, the 5150s sound good.
Yeah.
You can even get away with a Bugera 6262.
Let's not lead our audience astray now.
It sounds good. It's cheap. You can pick one up used for $250, $300. I'm just saying, if you're a kid out there and you're looking at, you want to get into a band, or even if you're an adult, and you're playing in a hard rock band, and you're like, listen, I got to go out and play clubs. I don't want to break the bank. Go buy the Bugera 6262 with the Infinium tube thing. You don't have to bias your tubes. You just throw it right in. And it's a clone of the 5152, which is the second one that Peavey made. And they do a great job. You know, you can go on YouTube and look at some guys make videos where you pretty much can't tell the difference. And if you can tell the difference, it's nothing a little EQing can't fix.
You know what I say about this whole amplifier thing? If you're going to get a new amp and you're going to go out and play clubs, get an amp and keep it. Don't do what I do.
No.
Don't go out and buy an amplifier, play it for 3 months, get bored, trade it for something else, and let that cycle continue. You know how many amplifiers I've had that I can recall over the course of my 20-something years of playing music? I wrote a list down not long ago of everything that I absolutely recall that I've had. And I'm not kidding. This is just tube combos and heads. It's something in the neighborhood of like 85.
Jeez. Well, you know what you're really saying.
I'm saying you're
telling everybody put a bid in for that Buddha. It's going out of the markets.
You're damn snappy. If I get the right offer. Here we go, everybody. No, that's crazy. I mean, I'm running through the list in my head and writing them down on a piece of paper, and it's like, in terms of guitars, I've had a lot of guitars. But, you have more than one at a time. Usually with amps, you don't have more than, 2 or 3 at a time, unless you're you and you've got, what do you have back there, like 17?
Yeah, right. I have a few. Well, that's
No,
a bass thing. But yeah, no,
dude,
that's
like,
yeah.
I'm like running through and you start to see, that there's a problem. You start to see duplicates on the list. You're like, oh, I've had that one twice. But if you're feeling generous, I've never had an angle. Somebody wants to send me one, I'll give you my, private message me. I'll give you my address. I've never had an angle. I've never had a diesel, but man, I've had a lot of everything else. I mean, there's a million boutique makers out there that are making, their own name, like Henning amps, for example. I've never had, but if you're like a relatively well-known manufacturer, there's a solid chance that I've had something from you. Had, Fryettes, VHTs, Marshalls, Peaveys. It's just crazy. I couldn't believe it when I was reading.
There's another guy, Fryette. The Pitbull is an unbelievable amp.
I've had the 100 CL 2 different times. I've had the Ultra, and I also had a combo of his a long time ago. It was a Pitbull 45.
Yeah,
45.
Those are great amps.
Yeah, super good. No, here's the problem that I've had with most of these amps, and this is something that people have to rectify with their rigs too. At any given point in time, depending on however many amps I had running through a particular cabinet, not all amps sound great with the same kind of cabinet.
Right.
And I would be in a recording space or a rehearsal room with, like a 212 rectifier cabinet, which if you're playing in a closed back 212 rectifier cabinet that's pointed straight at your knees, it doesn't matter how loud it is. If your room is only 10 by 10 or 20 by 20, if it's a smallish room and that thing's pointed at your legs, you turn the amp all the way up and the drummer's still too loud and you don't hear yourself. And you're like, why is my 100-watt amp not loud enough?
Right.
That's because you could have a 30-watt combo amp with a single 12 open back and you won't have to crack it past, 930. And the thing will be like destroying the room. I had that problem once. I had a VHT Fat Boy 212, I think it was called, or Fat Bottom 212.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Man, when I'm sitting in my computer chair and the thing is across the room from me, it was pointing at me enough to where I could get killer sounds in my bedroom. But then you stand up and you add 3 feet to your, the difference between where your head is, standing versus sitting. All of a sudden you can't hear it.
Well, that's, I think, a lot of reasons why when you go to clubs, bands are way too loud, because the guitar player's amp is down by their feet and they're cranked because they're standing right near it, can't hear it, but it's blooming. By the time it gets out there, you're killing the first, few people that are close to that thing.
Yeah.
It opens up, and I've noticed that a lot. And I always tell people, that have that problem, go get an amp stand, get the thing up in the air a little bit so you can hear it, because you're killing everybody else. For me, I don't really have a problem like playing softer than. I don't like a loud stage anyways. Like, I always like to be around. I like to be able to bullshit and talk while I'm playing if I have to. But so I like the stage to be quiet and have the sound out there, which is, of course, why I love, if you go to a place and they have their own PA system and they're micing you up, it's like, excellent. Because then I can keep it nice and quiet. Now all I got to hear is the drums.
Right. Yeah. When you're competing with an acoustic set of drums and a drummer that's bashing away, it becomes a loudness war it's not worth fighting.
Yeah.
If you're on a stage that's outdoors and the stage is 30 feet deep and you've got your wall of Marshall closed back cabinets and they're 15 to 20 feet behind you, have at it, because then you'll be able to hear yourself. But if you're on a stage that's 10 feet deep and you've got to put your rig just in front of the drummer, right? You got to put your rig just in front of the drummer. What the hell do you have a closed back 412 for? Your drummer can't hear a goddamn thing that you're doing. And you can't hear anything you're doing.
If you're on a stage that's 30 feet and you have a wall of Marshall stacks behind you, you might be in Judas Priest.
Right. There's a reason that you can have that look. that sound.
There's a good chance. The odds are that you are Glenn Tipton.
Oh, poor Glenn Tipton.
Yeah, I know he's got like Parkinson's or something.
Parkinson's, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess what this is his
I thought you were going to say Richie Faulkner, but
Richie replaced
Glenn. Yeah, right? Or
no, KK Downing.
Oh, okay.
Glenn
KK Downing just retired.
He retired a few years ago. He had some illnesses or something, and then I think he just wanted to enjoy his life and not be on the road. And Glenn is now, but Glenn wants to still go out and do it. And he's got Parkinson's. He says it affects his playing a little bit, but until it.
He says my vibrato's out of control.
What? No, but I mean seriously, it's that's fucking hilarious. It's killing me that if you're on a stage 30 and you've got a wall of Marshall and you've got 15 Marshall closebacks behind you, there's a good chance the singer's up there screaming, breaking the law.
Right. Dude. So, you know what's crazy about this whole amp thing and everything that I like so much? I like heavy music. You know that. I listen to more metal than probably anything. But if anybody was ever like, oh, who's got the best guitar tone? Who's got, you know, whatever. I've never, ever mentioned any of my favorite bands or any of the metal stuff. I don't think they have the best guitar tone. I think like Brad Paisley has the best guitar tone. You know what I mean? Like
right.
It's always like the country guy or the blues guy or something. It's like when you hear the single note vibrating on its own and you're like, oh my God, that sounds so good. It's never going to be the metal guy. Although in the band mix and the feeling of the music and everything, I much prefer the metal thing.
Right. Well, I think that you give up a lot when you add a ton of gain. You give something up, and the tone that Brad Paisley goes for, which is that, what is that? I don't know what he was even using, but it's like almost the push of Vox or the push. It's like a Dr. Z. Oh, is he?
Yeah, his recording amp has been for the longest time a vintage AC30.
Okay,
that's like what it's 64 or something like that.
Right. You put like some pedal in front of it and the thing responds. There's that marriage of that overdriving the tube, and there's something about that that's so nice.
Kills.
Yeah. But, you know, in the scheme of things, I've always said I thought the Beatles on record have some of the worst guitar tones. So it clearly doesn't matter.
They didn't know. I don't think they knew how to really record it because they were making everything up. You know what it sounds like to me when I listen to like an old Beatles record with those guitar tones? It sounds like they took a microphone and put it like drop dead on the center of the dust cap. And everything's like really like, oh.
Well, I just think that they didn't have great tones to begin with. Whereas like you listen to the first Hendrix album, that guitar sounds great. That's 67. That was right in the middle of when the Beatles were doing it. But the Hendrix tone was a lot nicer on the records because I think the playing was a lot nicer. And so, I mean, who knows? I'm sure there's like a lot of different variables. I haven't really thought about it too much, but I just think that I think gain, you know, you lose a lot of stuff in the gain, which is why when I talk about high gain amps, I'm not necessarily in favor of decking the gain. I like it pulled back, but I do like that powerful amp, that sound. Like the JSX has that powerful, it pushes wind. The old Marshalls push air, you know, the push that wind. And that's a nice sound. You know,
much as you've been mentioning that amp today, I have a feeling there's going to be a Craigslist search in your future.
Oh, no, I already looked. I was just curious to see what was going on with it. But I bring it up because somebody was posting it. And they posted it for too much. But I was like, oh, yeah, I do remember that amp was it was a combo. It is a fantastic amp. It's an overlooked amp. I mean, I just don't have – I mean, really, the JSX amp would probably be like in competition to the single rec. You know, you can get all the high gain goodness you want out of that single rec. I'm not even using that. So what the hell would I, you know what I mean? I don't need another.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I mean, on that note, I don't even like the Marshalls. How did I have two Marshalls behind me?
That's so damn funny.
Yeah.
I'm that's one thing I can't do. I'm not good at collecting. I'm good at buying and selling and trading. I trade most everything, which is, I think, why I've had so much gear.
Well, you remember the brown Les Paul I had?
Yeah.
The same one.
It was Les Paul Studio Worn or whatever it was called.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it was a 2004, and it was so good looking. It was like the first one that came with the hard shell case. My buddy Al was so in love with it. He was like every day trying to offer me. He kept raising the money, and I'm like, no, no, no. And then I went over his house one day, and he's like, yeah, I just bought this, and I don't know if I'm probably just gonna turn around and sell it. He'd never played it. It was a Sterling Classic by Ernie Ball. It was a USA made Ernie Ball Music Man Sterling Classic bass. And I'm like, oh. So we made a trade. He wanted a straight trade for it. I traded him for it. I haven't really played it much. I took it to a rehearsal yesterday, and I can't say enough amazing things about that bass. That bass is phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Is that a USA made bass?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's called. Does it look like a Stingray?
It's basically a Stingray without the control plate. So the controls are all entered through the back of the guitar.
Okay, got it.
Phenomenal. I mean, the thing, it's unbelievable. For under $2,000, I think they went for like 17 or 18. Now all the Sterlings, they don't do the Sterling Classic anymore. The Sterling Classic was much more like it was like a Sterling and a Stingray crossed, because the Sterling has a little bit of a smaller body, and
that's like such a Music Man thing.
Yeah, it has a 5-bolt neck, and the Sterling has a 5-bolt, where the Stingray has a 6-bolt. I have a 6-bolt on the Classic. So there's a lot of the appointments are like the original Stingray, the 2 knobs. I mean, it's just it's so great. And it's like the most basic. I'll tell you right now, anybody out there, if you can go on, if you're a bass player, go look up a used Sterling. It's called Ernie Ball Music Man Sterling Classic. The bass is phenomenal. I mean, it really played, and I love it has the wheels. So last night, before my rehearsal, I pulled it out, and I'm like, the strings, Massachusetts, the strings are a mile. I just, put a wrench in there and tightened the neck, got the thing like level where I wanted it. And I'm telling you, it was like I had the funnest time yesterday playing it. I love playing bass. It's a lot of fun because it's a different discipline you end up using that you don't really use a lot in guitar, where, in guitar, you could sit there and hold a chord and be like, and then like kind of goof off for a minute if you feel like it. If you want to throw in a fill, throw in a fill. The bass and drum are locking everything down and holding it down. But when you're the bass player, you do a fill, you better be right back on that downbeat, because that's where they want you and that's where you need to be. And I do like that discipline. It's like that self-torture. So, yeah, it'd be fun. I'll try to post some video when we play next week.
Did I ever tell you that there was a brief moment when I was playing bass in a Motown tribute band?
I think, was it last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago or so, yeah. It was just something I wanted to learn to, like, get myself into something new, basically.
Yeah.
And I totally get where you're coming from about the discipline thing, because sitting there having to try and mimic the bass playing of those guys.
No, it was mostly
like, trying to do it. It was like,
yeah.
Oh my God, like, you're certainly not doing the Michael Anthony thing, but
no.
Boom. I mean, it's a boo-doo-doo-doo, boo-doo, boo-doo, boo, boo-doo, boo-doo, boo, boo, boo-doo, boo. I mean, you get these really great classic licks, but like you're trying to do it to a T. It really teaches you a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, anyone could listen to. What's that song? There's a Marvin Gaye song. It's a duet. Not You're All I Need to Get By. What was maybe it's not Ain't No Mountain. Is it Ain't No Mountain High Enough, or is it the other Ain't? Is there another Ain't song that Marvin Gaye sings?
Ain't Breathing No More.
Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. Sure. You gotta go listen to that song and just focus on the bass. Jameson in that song must have been laughing the whole time, going, "Yeah, let somebody try to cover this bass line." It's insane.
Yeah.
He's just, I mean, he's awesome. But it's
ridiculous.
that line that he plays is just insane on Ain't Nothing But or Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing. I forget what the song's called.
How sad is the whole Tammy Terrell story?
Oh, awful.
Brutal.
Awful. Died of brain cancer and
Earlier mid-20s, right?
yeah, I think she was recently died. Like she wasn't diagnosed long before she passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she started singing with him when she was like 18 or 17, something like that. I think she had a couple of years, and then it was it.
Yeah, it was it. And she was great. Yeah, she was the one that had the most success doing duets with him because he did a duet with Kim Weston before that. He had, I forget the name of the song now. It's eluding me on the spot. But Kim Weston had a song with him, and then he had another hit with another girl singer. And then they brought in Tammy Terrell, and he did You're All I Need to Get By, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing. There might have been another one, too. Yeah, no, she was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like, and I think she also, I don't know if she had a relationship with Sam Cooke, but I think
Sam Cooke was dead before that.
I don't think so.
All right, we got to do one last whip around before we wrap things up today. What's the year
that Sam Cooke died? I want to say maybe 64 or 65.
Okay, very good. 64.
Okay.
Very close to 65. In fact, it was December of 64.
Oh, at the hotel, and I seen the hotel. I've driven by it with Deemer we did a drive-by.
You guys were in New Zealand together?
No, he died in L.A., downtown L.A.
Oh, this is so funny because I'm looking at I thought it was L.A. But if you go and just type in Sam Cooke death on Google, it gives you the date. Yeah. It gives you the name of the motel, and then it says that it was in Invercargill, New Zealand.
I know, it's right in downtown L.A.
Yeah, but then you go to the wiki page, and it's Hacienda Motel in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah,
Now, what had happened was he was in a hotel room with a prostitute or something, and she locked him out of the room naked.
No, he went to shower, and she took all his clothes, all his money. She took everything.
Right, and he was like banging on the door to get back in, and the motel manager shot him or something like that.
Well, he went down to the manager because he was like, this girl just took all my clothes, everything, and he's standing there naked, like I don't know if he was in a towel, but she thought he was crazy and shot him.
Yeah, unbelievable.
But now
he was crazy, crazy good.
And look up Tammy Terrell. When did she? How old was she then?
Tammy Terrell. Let's see.
And does it say anything about Sam Cooke and her?
Tammy Terrell passed in 1970.
I would have said 70. That's exactly right.
And she was born in 45. So upon Sam Cooke's death,
she was 19.
She was 19 when Sam Cooke passed.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know.
Did it say anything?
Control F on this page here and see what I can come up with. I don't see anything, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, hold on. Let me just sign into Wiki real quick and change it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, dang. Well, I mean, Marvin Gaye was Philly, right? And she was Philly. Doesn't preclude her from being able to have time with Sam Cooke, but
what do you say? Marvin Gaye was Philly.
He was from Philly.
Well, I mean, but he was Motown. He was in Detroit when he.
Right. But she was also from Philadelphia.
Oh, she was?
And, don't you know that people from Philadelphia never go to Los Angeles? I don't know.
Exactly.
Making up facts. Hey, kid. Did I tell you that I'm going to be launching a YouTube channel here?
You had mentioned it. You had mentioned it.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I don't have any names or content or ideas.
Seriously?
No, I'm just kidding.
Sounds
totally
like
good.
our
It sounds like the episode today.
sounds like Guitar Talk.
No, I've got a new channel coming soon. I'll send you some information if you want to link it. I'd appreciate it. I think I'll have my first episode up before the end of the week this week. Basically going to be covering guitars, gear, and music-related tech, maybe some recording stuff, as well as general political and comedy and bacon.
Right.
No,
Nice.
None of that later stuff. No, it's all going to be guitars and music technology and things like that.
That'll be great.
Yeah, because there's not enough guys out there spouting off their opinions about that already.
Oh, I got to say one funny thing. So I'm watching a guy. I don't know if you ever watched. Did you ever watch this guy Steve from Boston?
Was that what he YouTubes as?
Yeah, he used to be a guy. They used to call him Pixie Licks. I mentioned him before because I think he used to work at a store that I used to go to as a kid. When I say a kid, I mean I was like 18 or 19. Anyways, he was showing some cheapy guitar, like a Harley, whatever it's called, Benton.
Harley Benton, yeah, I've heard of that.
And he says about the guitar, he's like, this
set neck, die-cast oil-filled tuners, so the P90 style pickups, binding around the neck, binding around the fretboard. Not bad for $150. I think that it's just a testament to how far manufacturing has come over the years. Because, back in the late 80s, a guitar like this would have been, $300 or $400.
if you want to see advances in manufacturing, go to Taylor Guitars. That's why the guitars are $3,000. The Harley Benton is not $150 because of advances in manufacturing. It's because of slave labor in countries that are making these things probably by hand and not using a CNC. It's funny. People are like always like, these things they're made, in China. It's so affordable. It's really affordable because somebody's making it for 50 cents that's their day pay, And then what they end up doing is they end up throwing the Gibson logo on a couple, selling them out the back door so they can feed their family. And that's, they're selling them on, what's that website? Not AliExpress. AliExpress, yes, which is a subsidiary of Alibaba. But AliExpress, they sit there and they'll sell it to you, and you can, that's basically what happens is you can email or message the guy selling the Gibson Les Paul clone and say, put a Gibson logo on the headstock for me. And that's where they're getting. It's not like these people are out there advertising fake Gibsons. They'll make whatever you want, but they're all like, nudge, nudge. Do you want the Gibson logo on it? These guys are just making it so they can eat. So I just thought it was funny. He was like saying it's $150. Like, what advances in manufacturing? It's like more like what advances in slavery. We were paying, where Chinese manufacturers are paying people next to nothing. That's why the instruments are cheap over there. I just thought it was a funny bit because he was like, he was saying it like it's advances in manufacturing. Like over there, they're running state of the art and whipping it out. It's like, no.
Right. Yeah, not that circumstance.
Right. You want to see state of the art manufacturing? Go to San Diego, go to El Cajon, and take a tour. They take a Taylor tour where they got robots spraying the guitar. They get that's a real high tech operation.
True story.
Yeah. There are some other factories too that have some high tech stuff. Like what's the one up there in Canada? Lacido. What was?
Yeah, Lacido. That would be
Godin. Yeah.
Godin, La Patrie. There's a lot under that label.
Art and Luthery.
Right.
Norman.
Forgot about Norman.
Seagull.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's a lot under that name, the Godin brand.
Yeah. And I think years ago they were also making necks for like Kramer back in the 80s.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Anyway, the road is a calling on me. I got to get my butt moving.
Yeah.
What
All
do
right.
you got,
Very good.
What do you got shaking out for the rest of the day?
I'm going to hit the gym, and then I got to go teach down in about 30 minutes south. I'm going to go teach, and then I'll meet a buddy of mine for a meal. We usually go to this little 50s diner down in a town called Middleborough, Mass.
You love a 50s diner.
Oh, you know it. You know I love Cafe 50s.
You know, I don't know if it's still there. I had to drive by.
They keep sending me emails. Are you sure?
Oh, they might be there.
Yeah.
I don't go up that way that often. You know,
Yeah.
there was that other one. It wasn't related, but there was the Cafe 50s on Lincoln. That one's gone. That one's gone.
Nice.
But,
that one was terrible.
Yeah, it should be gone.
Yeah. The other one has all those 50s cigarette ads that I love. 4 out of 5 doctors prefer Camel cigarettes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
I haven't been there since I was probably there with you.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, I got to hit the road.
All right, very good. Have a good day, and everybody be good and very good.
Catch you later.
You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.